Hobbit first. We're doing Hobbit first, and then I'll start it out, and then we'll just go back and forth.
It's on.
She's on.
Welcome to Get Literature with Bowflex and Jess.
Bowflex. Yeah, so we're gonna do The Hobbit as the first book. This book has many major themes that we're going to talk about. One of the main ones we're going to focus on as a theory is critical race theory. And critical race theory essentially is the focal point on races and how they interact in the text and between each other and their relationships as they develop through the course of the entire text. So in The Hobbit, there are races like wargs, goblins, elves, hobbits, dwarves, and then there's Gandalf, who is technically a Greek god, but he's unlike any other race in the Hobbit, in the world of Middle-earth. So he's an exception, but yeah, so where do we want to begin? We're very lit about this book, am I right?
I'm lit, feeling lit.
Let's first talk about Bilbo. He's the main character, and arguably he's the main person in the text that goes through a development, although he's not the only one, which if you actually read the text, Dr. Boatwright, you'll see that Thorin...
He has read the text.
Oh, he's read this? Have you read this, Dr. B? Let us know. Let us know in the comment box.
Located here. Here.
Okay. But anyway, Thorin is a truly greedy character throughout the text, and by the end, he's on his deathbed, and essentially he says that the world would be better with less people like Thorin himself and more people like Bilbo, which is one of the revolutionary moments in the text because greed does not outweigh kindness and humility for the first time.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about Bilbo?
Bilbo is my least favorite character. I'm a Smeagol fan.
Why?
Because he's precious.
Yeah, so Smeagol, or I did that in class when I was teaching.
John Spiegelman is a...
Yeah, so Smeagol, Gollum, whatever you want to call him, same person, except Gollum is him, and then Smeagol is his alternate personality that he goes to whenever he's bullying himself in the text, and in the film you see it too. Yeah, and interestingly enough, Gollum used to be a type of hobbit, and the ring and his obsession with it made him go mad, and now he's bald and walks on all fours like an animal, and I mean that speaks to character development because not only is he physically decrepit, his mind is too. And so unlike a character like Bilbo who maintains his humility throughout the text, like we said earlier, he doesn't. Although most of my students argued when we talked about this text in class that they sympathize and empathize with Gollum because not only is he likable, even though he is also quite evil, he couldn't help obsessing about the ring. And I think that kind of perspective is so unique and needed in texts like this, especially with characters like Gollum, who some would say are inherently evil. Yeah? Inherently evil.
Well,
what about the dragon?
I haven't got the chance to teach this yet. That was all Jess and not me. But I like the fact of... Have you talked about critical race theory yet?
I mentioned critical race theory.
Critical race theory. But the fact that... No, you go ahead. She's smarter than me on the critical race theory.
Well, in terms of critical race theory, if you want to examine the races in the text, the elves don't typically elves, there's two different kinds. There's elves and there's wood elves. And wood elves are kind of like the common folk of elves. So they're like peasant elves. I don't know. They're working elves. Middle class, am I right? Okay. But in the text, elves don't typically get along with dwarves, but there's a scene in the text that they have to get along, and the Elven King... Fuck, I just messed up. Hold on.
I'm gonna have to censor you out.
Just put
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
What am I trying to say? Should we just start over?
No.
No? We're gonna keep going.
I'm not.
So yeah, so dwarves and elves typically don't get along, but there's a scene in the text where Bilbo wants to stay for dinner with the elves, but the 13 dwarves, are also with him. And there's this unspoken conflict between the two races, and I think that's one of the easiest beginning examples of races and their interactions in the text, where they may not get along, but they still have to interact and get along for the greater good. As much as I hate that terminology, the greater good of Middle Earth.
The Disney answer is that no matter what race you are, you can be a friend. Or gender.
You need to zoom.
You can be friends.
We can talk about gender.
Seeing as how I'm a young Puerto Rican boy and Jess is white.
Speaking of gender, you mentioned gender just now. There is not one female character in The Hobbit. I'm actually trying to think.
She's getting real.
There's not one female character in The Hobbit, which who?
The spirit lady.
That's not in The Hobbit. That's in The Lord of the Rings.
She's in The Hobbit too.
There wasn't a female in the text.
Well, okay, yeah, she's right. I got it mixed up.
Well, in Lord of the Rings, yeah, you're talking about the lady with the blonde hair, long blonde hair.
And only certain people can see her. Like she only appears when you want her. Dude, that's not The Hobbit.
Yeah, no, that's not in the book.
Oh, dang.
Well, it might have been in the movie, but the movies have like 3 different main movies of the Hobbit adaptation, so they incorporate stuff. The film, compared to the text, incorporate more scenes from Lord of the Rings into the Hobbit storyline to try to make connections when you're watching, but in the text itself, there's no female characters. There's ones that may have female traits, which I think Tolkien adds to contrast their other characters in the text. Like, Bilbo is sensitive, and he likes his food, and he likes his home, and his comfort. And Thorin is very greedy, and he likes his gold, and he likes his beard, and he likes being around other strong men in the text. And he really only communicates effectively with people of authority, like Gandalf, or other people in the Hobbit community. Or, sorry, he's a dwarf, in the dwarf community, but... Which is interesting. Like, why aren't there any women in here? Am I right? Gosh. But I would be interested in seeing how women or female characters in the text would contrast. Like, if we replace all the characters in this book with female, with the journey and the quest to kill Smaug and to receive Thorin's family treasure back, would it still be the same timeline and the same execution of the journey? I think that's interesting to consider.
What's the third thing we always have to talk about on our blogs?
The third thing?
Summary, compare to class, or no, your takeaway. Did we do takeaway yet?
No. Let's do takeaway.
My takeaway.
Takeaway from The Hobbit.
Takeaway from The Hobbit is, we discussed this before, but we don't understand Gandalf. Because he's just... What's he doing? What's he doing, Jess? He's not there. He's only there when they sincerely need help. He's not there until they sincerely need help. And then for the rest of the time, he's just like chilling off somewhere. And I guess your version of takeaway, there are no women in this book. So it's a very gender exclusive book.
Yeah. Also with Gandalf, when I was teaching it, I don't know if I said this earlier, but my students viewed Gandalf as godlike, or... Wait, I said that already, didn't I?
You said he's like a Greek god?
Like a Greek god, yeah.
Deity.
Well, he is a Greek god in Middle Earth. He's not of a race in Middle Earth at all. But, like, where did she come from? Where did Gandalf come from?
Where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from? Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah, but my students... oh, Jesus. My students were talking about that he's like a parent, and from that in class we were talking about like our personal anecdotes, like naming a time where our parents, I don't want to say drowned us in an experience, but let us soak in a decision that we made so that we could learn how to get through it. And my students, that was the analogy that really got them through Gandalf's characterization in the book, because Gandalf does only appear in times where they're about to die, or someone has a sword in the air, like Bilbo whips out his sword and he's about to do something. There's a scene where the spiders attack the dwarves and him in a forest, and he is the hero. It's the first major conflict, or no, sorry, the second major conflict in the text. And he takes a sword and he cuts all his friends free, and he's heroic because it was the first time he took action himself. And Gandalf didn't, afterwards Gandalf appears like, oh, what happened? I'm here to save the day. But Bilbo has already done it at that point. So it's like when a parent has to correct their child but doesn't want to do it for them.
Awkward pause. Soak it in.
Yeah.
So, Jess, you've taught this book. Would you teach this book again?
Yeah, I would teach this book again, but I would teach it differently because I think I did we really didn't do any activities. We just discussed it a lot, and I mentioned this in class before, but my students, at certain points, they'd be like, okay, you're beating it with a stick, it's dead, let's move on. But there are concepts in here that students, and even myself, don't see immediately until you go back and you look at different portions of the text really, truly critically. And I think that's where the magic happens in this book, where you don't look, this sounds really bad, but you don't look at the book as a whole, you look at it in certain sections, because each section, each chapter, essentially has a different life lesson, has a different lesson about life, about, I had a student write, I showed this in class too, I had a student write something like, my experiences don't involve a dragon or trolls, but they're no less valuable and important, or something like that. And she just clearly got the point of the text, saying that, Bilbo is us. We are Bilbo. Gandalf is our parent, or Dr. Boatwright, or somebody who lets us learn the hard lessons that we need to know, but not do it for us. I think that's important. I think each character in the text, if I were to teach this again, I'd focus more on less about each character and beating it with a stick, and more about the concepts that make this book function as a whole, structurally and event-wise.
I would discuss this with my students just because of all the different discussion points you can get out of it, like Jess was saying, like, why are there no women in the book? Why did, this one's kind of be out there, but why did Hollywood whitewash it too? I don't think, when reading it through, I never noticed that Tolkien talked about skin color of any character in the book, never talked about the skin color of Bilbo or the Hobbits, but when you go back and watch any of the film, all the Thors are... all the dwarves are white, Gandalf is white, all the hobbits are white, Lord of the Rings, all the elves are white, even though I think they're portrayed as fair-skinned and
elves,
bright.
That's who they are. They're fair and beautiful and light-skinned.
Light-skinned. So yeah, maybe not the elves, but like dwarves, hobbits are not.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw any
black
characters or Spanish.
Yeah, and it's funny because in the text, hobbits are described as hairy and short, and they're essentially, I don't know how to say this, they're short short species of a race. It's, hobbit, but they're covered in hair and this and that, but yeah, modern media takes it and makes it, okay, this is a white person. Like, a hobbit doesn't have a skin tone. They're that weird space between human and creature. So putting a race on it is just really unnecessary.
Cousin It. Think of Cousin It from Addams Family.
Yeah. Except I think, hobbits do have curly hair, but...
That's true. So...
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what we got out of this book overall is life lessons. They relate to us even though we're not dwarves or trolls or dragons. We all have a dragon in our life. Am I right? I have a couple dragons in my life. I wouldn't kill them, but what are you know?
Takeaway: be a Bilbo. Don't be a dick. So, I approve of said book. Do you approve of said book?
Yeah, except the no female part.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really notice that or pay attention until now.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, good job. So pick this up at your local, wherever you buy books.
City Lights Bookstore.
City Lights.
Sponsor us.
Bye.